Okay, let's see here. Jeez, this guy's firewall security is cryptic as hell. Almost got it, and done! Hello? Hey!
No! George! Not Jar Jar! Oh, fuck my head. I should not have drank that intoxicating blue milk at the party last night. Ah! Yeah. Oh. Whomst?
Sorry to disturb you during your hangover, by the looks of it, but would you just so happen to be Jack of BigJackFilms?
Yes, and who the hell are you? One of the escape special effects from Duncan Jones' production of Reboot?
Aha, very funny. No, I'm Isaac the Media Hunter. I review animal-based movies and TV shows on YouTube.
Okay, but I don't see the point of you calling. I just got back from a battle against the Galactic Empire. And how the hell did you get this coded number?
A friend of mine gave it to me. He requested me to review a certain movie for him and gave me your contact information, saying you could help me.
It was Huey Timore, wasn't it?
Yep. He said you're the go-to guy when it comes to knowing about a certain dinosaur fighting, damsel capturing, skyscraper scaling giant gorilla.
Damn it, I knew I shouldn't have given him the codes to help with his contact remote. Well, yeah, that's me. I'm the King Kong guy, as I'm often referred to. What do you need help with? Bear in mind, my critical batteries are extremely low right now.
Well, what do you know about the 1976 remake by Dino De Laurentiis?
My friend, you've come to the right place.
Hey everyone, I'm Isaac the Media Hunter, and today I have a special guest joining me.
Hey guys, what's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and I focus on movies and nostalgic memories from my childhood, as well as being a YouTube historian to one of my all-time favorite franchises with the eighth wonder of the world, simply known as King Kong. The original film, released in 1933, captured itself in the world of imagination and wondrous special effects, and essentially sparked the fire of major blockbusters of today's movies. Not to mention, King Kong is one of the most inspirational films of all time, and has been adapted to all forms of media, and inspired the likes of myself, as well as those like Peter Jackson, to retell the story from our own personal perspectives.
Now the big guy is no stranger to my show either, as a few years back I reviewed the 1962 Toho Kaiju film, King Kong vs. Godzilla, where the eighth wonder took on the King of the Monsters in an all-out, if not a wee bit silly, grudge match. But today, however, I've asked Jack here to help me in reviewing the infamous first remake of the monster movie classic released back in 1976 by producer Dino De Laurentiis. First, a little history on the film itself. The 70s remake was conceptualized by, of all people, Michael Eisner. Yes, the same guy who would eventually become the chairman and CEO of the Walt Disney Company from 1984 to 2005. Anyway, he passed the idea of a King Kong remake to several studios, and the concept ended up selling to both Paramount and Universal.
However, what followed was a massive lawsuit that led to Paramount obtaining the rights and hiring Dino De Laurentiis to produce, as well as the Towering Inferno's John Gellerman to direct. While De Laurentiis was happy with obtaining the rights, his real objective was to find a film to rival, if not top, Steven Spielberg's Jaws, which at the time was the highest grossing film in history.
So today we'll be taking a look at the 1976 remake to see if it still holds up.
Actually, Isaac, I was considering maybe we could spice things up a little bit. Since most have already covered this film, I was thinking we'd take a look at a more alternative cut to this movie. Like, say, the extended TV cut?
Wait, there's an extended edition of this remake?
That's correct, Isaac. Originally, the theatrical version of the movie, which you can see in my review in the description below, only lasted just above 2 hours, which was normal for most theatrical movies. However, in 1978, when NBC obtained the television rights, they wanted an extended cut to fill out the 2-night block. So Paramount gifted them with what seems to be a first cut work print, which added about 60 minutes of extra footage originally deleted from the movie, and was edited where it was split into 2 parts, shown on 2 separate nights, pretty much treating it like a TV movie event. Hell, they've done that with other movies like Earthquake and Superman.
Yeah, that's one way to get viewership. Have an up-to-date adaptation of an old classic, have more footage than what was in theaters, and split it up so people will have to come back for it.
Well, not really, Isaac. To this day, the extended TV version has never gotten a home video release, while at least most of the Region 2 DVD and Blu-ray releases did include only 15 minutes of the deleted scenes as extra features. Hell, to this day, Kong 76 hasn't even gotten a Blu-ray in North America. So the footage I have is of low quality when it compares to the original theatrical cut.
Oh, well, that's fine, I guess. This does give me a chance to really look at the original, and we can go over the changes made through the extended version and how that would affect the entire story.
Yeah, we may end up missing a few, either for time or if it's not too important, but everything that is vital to the story will be brought up.
Well then, what are we waiting for? Let's get started. This is the extended 1978 TV version of Dino De Laurentiis' 1976 remake of King Kong. Wow, that sure was a mouthful, wasn't it? So the film begins at night at a port in the Indonesian city of Surabaya, rather than in New York City like in the other films. As our venture of the movie, the Petrox Explorer is prepping to set sail. Also, unlike the other films, rather than taking place during the early 1930s, this film's story is set in the present day of the late 1970s, making it a modern update, at least at the time of this movie's release. Plus, instead of a film crew, we have an oil company leading the expedition led by Fred Wilson, played by Charles Grodin, who seems to grind his coffee-driven dialogue in almost every scene.
Hell, I sold this one to the board. If that island doesn't produce huge, I'll be wiping windshields.
You know something? I always wondered how Cortez felt when he first saw the Inca treasure. You big idiot. You signed a contract. You took an advance.
Jeez, did this guy chew up the set before they even shot it?
Well, it could have been worse. He could have gotten slobbered by Beethoven. Right away, the first instances of the extended version having extra footage is shown for loading the ship. Fortunately, there are plenty of deleted scenes that change up how characters get introduced. For instance, our main lead, primate paleontologist Jack Prescott, played by Jeff Bridges, is first shown inside a bar after having a bartender drug a Petrox employee's drink so he can get his uniform, rather than just showing up out of the blue like in the theatrical version. While it may seem minor, it does explain how he was able to get on board in the first place and to what extents he's willing to go in order to get there.
Still not sure why he would need to sneak in through a different way when he's wearing the uniform.
There are also a lot of times where we have artificial cuts within the movie, because this had to be edited for a TV audience, so you would have shots like this where they're normally on widescreen, but cut to fit the aspect ratio.
Well, it could be worse. It could be the aspect ratio from Crocodile Hunter Collision Course.
True.
So here's a question. While these introduction scenes give us an early grasp of how these characters are, would you say the extra scenes thus far add much, or make it seem longer before the plot kicks in?
Kind of. Most of the expanded footage is kinda pointless. The only real scene that holds up interest is in the bar scene, but aside from that, there's not much to talk about. Except the awesome score!
The movie's score was written and composed by 007's own John Barry, whose work is pretty good from all the films I've seen anyway, as the music tends to match the tone of each scene. But at any rate, Fred is hoping that this undiscovered island he's chartered for will have an untapped oil supply. After nearly a minute of showing the crew doing whatever, and being called into a meeting that could have just been shown instead, we learn about how the fog bank that's been in the same spot for many years has the oil they believe exists.
Carbon dioxide, far above normal. Not poisonous, but very damn curious. See, this has to be caused by vapors seeping up through the ground. My guess is vapors seeping up from petroleum deposits. Yes, hell.
Well, he certainly isn't entertained by science.
I'll take 50 cents of that.
Well, at least Jeff Bridges is as good here as he is now.
I'm not so sure that human feet have never walked the island before. You see, in 1605, Pero Fernandez de Quirez was blown south from Tematang. He wrote in his log of piercing the White Veil, that's obviously the cloud bank, and landing on the beach of the Skull, where he heard the roar of the greatest beast. The rest of that log entry, unfortunately, was suppressed by the Holy Office in Rome.
Yeah, the way Jack describes the island almost makes it sound like he visited the island himself, and I love how no one interrupts him as he describes some of the mysterious findings that were found there. He's already building up to what is to be a sort of ancient god.
Of course, they don't believe he's a paleontologist and start interrogating him. And in another instance of the film needing to adjust to a TV screen, the theatrical version features 5 people on screen at once, while the extended version can only fit 3 at a time during intense dialogue.
So far, the extended padding really seems pointless and takes some of the pacing away from the ship's voyage. I'm starting to have flashbacks to the 3-hour venture trip from the Peter Jackson version. I mean, come on, pick up the pace here a little bit, movie!
So since they don't believe he only wants to visit the island for his research, they try to take him down, but he spots something out on the ocean that apparently only he can see unless someone uses binoculars. And they're supposed to be sailors?
Wait, how is it that Jack can see the raft in full view, yet nobody on the ship could see it without being on the crow's nest?
Kinda like how you can see through her dress in full view.
Hey, get your mind out of the gutter, Diet Dr. Wolfula!
Greetings, I'm your host, Diet Dr. Wolfula, and when I'm not out shitting on critically acclaimed movies just because I think they're boring, I'm here at the Wolfula reviewing movies.
Damn it, Nick Jackson, I'm not doing a crossover with Dr. Wolfula. Now get back to keeping an eye out for any activities in the galactic universe.
Oh,
Oh, that there, yeah, I've got a satellite orbiting space to keep an eye out for any intergalactic activity.
You have a satellite orbiting space?
Hey, the YouTube monetization fund's gotta go somewhere.
So, what should I do with my money? Savings? New car? Both, maybe?
Whichever works, hun. In fact, take the rest of the day off.
Cool.
What?
Was that Android 18 from Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah, and?
What type of wacky world of Tex Avery life are you living?
Yeah, it's better not to question that. It's a long story. Worth a whole Tolkien novel. Outside from having half a minute's worth of unnecessary footage of the crew, we actually get instances of an alternative cut regarding how the first officer of the ship gets the one survivor out of the raft. There is still an intriguing sense of who she is and how she was out there for so long.
After an extended montage involving Prescott going shirtless, the crew gets a fax that basically clears him of his name and allows him to be their photographer, and also has him revive the unknown woman given his medical expertise.
When the girl, played by Jessica Lange, does revive, we do find out a little bit about what she was doing out in those waters.
Harry had discovered me. He was going to put me in a movie he was making in Hong Kong.
You could have just flown there. It'd be safer than sailing in a yacht.
This might also be a reference to the original movie, as the leading lady of that film, Ann Darrow, was promised a role in a film that the leading man wanted to make. And as we'll see, both of these characters have the same sort of role that befalls all the ladies in Kong.
I owe my life to a movie?
Is that so?
I swear to God, you see, Harry was showing this film that I refused to watch. And that's why I was up on deck by myself when the yacht exploded.
Good lord, someone tried to assassinate her?
Well, that would explain the sharks, which, by the way, there were actual sharks floating around the raft during filming.
Anyway, we get another montage, this time of Prescott and the woman, named Dwan, by the way, interacting with each other and the crew a bit more, and then...
I
Let me guess, this was deleted because it was too perverted?
Well, not really. I mean, they show her a lot clearer in the theatrical cut, although believe it or not, the scene was selected in a way that prevented us from seeing her nice ass. Because it would prevent teenagers starting a sexual revolution.
What?
Hey, it was the 1970s. You gotta keep the young generation from getting out of control somehow. It was either that or Vietnam.
Garcia!
Well, good thing they called it out, or else you would have just killed that man! Also, where did that other guy go? He was right next to him a second ago.
So they eventually reach the fog bank, which they hope will lead to the undiscovered island on the other side. However, Dwan gets mad at Fred for not letting her go onto the island right away, but eventually lets her come a little later for press photos.
You know, maybe it's him.
Him?
Fred Wilson. You know, I had my horoscope done before I flew out to Hong Kong.
What, you saying you want to be with Fred?
She's gonna find out a lot later that that might not be such a good idea.
So roughly a minute of them in the fog, including some extended footage, where they find the island and land. At first it all seems happy and exciting to find uncharted land, until they start exploring, which also contains extended and even new footage.
Again, reflective to the original and how mysterious this place really is, and it's really impressive the kind of set pieces they've chosen for their environments and how large they are in scale. Although, to be fair, the extended cut just adds more padding, and the tone is on par with something like Planet of Dinosaurs.
Of course, like the other films, they soon come across a large wall, which also indicates the existence of people on the island, and that it was built to keep something in.
The wall was originally supposed to be stone, like in the original, but John Guillermin decided the wall would look a lot better as a wooden structure after seeing photos of a primitive native village in New Guinea.
However, Fred thinks otherwise.
This wall is an ancient ruin. 2, the island is uninhabited.
3, there's an uninhabited German beer hall in there with a mechanical band.
Yes, always listen to the paleontologists. They're never wrong. Look out! An unknown tribe of people!
Let's move in closer. They spot what may be the oil they're looking for, but Prescott and Dwan are more focused on what they think is a marriage ceremony. But after more padded out footage of them reacting, they get spotted by the tribe's witch doctor.
Well, of course they stand out like the bunch of white people they are.
Since they're not throwing their toothpicks, might as well hear them out.
Only the tone. He's probably telling us we've contaminated their magic.
We won't be letting you have her, not even at the cost of 6 women.
Yes, like in the original film, the tribe offers 6 of their own women in exchange for the beautiful Miss Dwan, mostly because her blonde hair is more lovely than their straw hair, I guess.
But they still decline, and they shoot up in the air to keep them at bay while they return to the ship. But that night, the natives sneak aboard to steal her away anyway.
This, of course, after we learn that they're going to attack the natives anyway so they can get the oil. Prescott decides he'll steal a boat to get there before that happens and runs into Dwan, who offers to watch it for him before she gets kidnapped.
This leads to one of the biggest build-ups in the movie, where Dwan is being offered up as a sacrifice. While respectively, it fills you with tension as you watch her being brought up to the altar on the other side of the wall, I can't help but feel like the extended version drags this out a little longer than it needs to. There's at least 48 seconds of additional dancing, 21 seconds of natives climbing the wall, calling Kong while trying to close the door, several close-ups of Dwan like, oh my god, we get it! It doesn't need to go any longer than this!
I do agree that this again has a lot of padding, but it's nice to see a lot more of what they shot. That or everyone was high as fuck.
Wait, what?
Yeah, no joke, Isaac. A lot of the extras were doing drugs on set, and some of them walked out into the streets acting like actual natives. Hell, they actually had a bomb threat on the set at one point.
Who the hell would want to bomb the set of a King Kong movie?
I think we already know the answer to that, Isaac. Oh boy, here we go! The awesome and majestic entrance of the real star of the movie! Yes, sir. Any minute now. Oh, for God's sakes, I could have grabbed a refill on my drink by the time this was over!
Well, finally, the drugs wore off, and after all that build-up, we better get something good here.
Yeah, boy, now that's a way to introduce a monster!
And what a monster it is! A definite improvement over the Kong design used in King Kong vs. Godzilla, that's for sure. The Kong suit for this movie was designed by legendary makeup effects master Rick Baker, who I've previously mentioned in my review of An American Werewolf in London.
Not only that, but it's actually Baker himself performing inside the Kong suit.
Seriously? Well, that's pretty cool.
Also, the animatronic hands were designed by effects creator Carlo Rambaldi, who also worked on films such as Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Alien, and even E.T. While he and Baker often bickered in arguments throughout the production design, their combined efforts really balances well in the overall product.
Well, it kinda works, I guess. I mean, nowadays, the effects might not hold up as well.
I mentioned that Kong's vocals were actually provided by legendary voice actor Peter Cullen.
Wait, Optimus Prime? Okay, now the effects hold up.
I knew you couldn't pass the taste of a Canadian Cullen.
While all this was happening, the crew arrives on shore to try and rescue Dwan. But it's already too late, as Kong has already taken a liking to her and takes her deep into the jungle. The natives celebrate, but are soon interrupted by the crew's flare guns. They then force their way to the gate to open it up.
He's taken her.
Someone's taken her.
Who the hell do you think went through there? Some guy in an ape suit?
Well, if only you were here sooner. I mean, given how long they were dancing and Dwan mugging the camera, you logically could have beaten them to her.
Ah! You alright? Just fell in a damn hole.
Well, either way you look at it, it's actually an appropriate foreshadowing for what would come later. The two groups decide to camp out for the night, with Prescott showing worry for the one he's grown attached to. Though not as much as Kong, as this marks the beginning of Kong and Dwan's interactions. You can also see where they integrate the robotic Kong hands with the shots of Kong in suit form. Combined with some brilliant use of blue screen, they provided the illusion of Dwan really being picked up by the massive hairy ape. Her acting as she begs him to put her down due to fear of heights is also well done, as she shows genuine fear of what this creature may do to her.
That I agree with. While later DVD releases make the blue screen seem more noticeable, especially given the advancements in technology since the time the original film came out.
As Jack's group gets further in, they set off a signal flare to alert the people on the beach to get a status update. While we also learn more of Fred's personal interests.
Jack, I know how you feel. I feel the same. But there's a national energy crisis which demands that we all rise above our private selfish interests.
and all you're thinking about is your stock options and your cutoff.
Signed off.
Oh, Freddy, you just wait till much later when things get a lot more hairier for you.
So, when do the dinosaurs show up?
Yeah, about that, Isaac, there's no dinosaurs in this movie.
What? You mean, no brontosaur chase? No fight with the T-Rex? Not even any pterodactyls?
Yeah, no, sorry, dude.
Well, why the hell not then? The dinosaurs were a huge staple of the original movie, making the island all that more mysterious and threatening. Even Peter Jackson knew that when he incorporated them in his remake. What, they weren't able to make any dinosaur costumes that would be just as good as the Kong suit for this film?
Well, it's mostly due to the realization of the central theme in this movie. The reason the dinosaurs aren't present in this film is that Dino De Laurentiis, for one, thought the process was too expensive, and very highly impractical. Second, he wanted to focus on more of the realism of the story, so having dinosaurs in the film seemed more like a fantasy aspect than actual science. But the third and final reason why the dinosaurs aren't in this film is because they wanted to focus more on the love story between Beauty and Beast, which compared to the other versions of Kong is actually the better adaptation.
If you say so. Still ticked off, though.
Real quick, though, as if to say karma's a bitch, this next deleted scene that was shown in the TV cut is of Bagley examining the oil sample and finding out it's no good. Which is why the following scene he gets a boat to tell Fred the bad news. While the theatrical cut was great for having him be screwed over on what he wanted versus what our heroes want, that one scene with Bagley was a good setup to what amounted to a wasted trip for them.
They wasted time and resources to get here, but damn it, at least the booze was good. But Fred believes he still have one big thing to bring home. Anyway, how about a scene of Kong giving Dwan a shower at a waterfall? Aw, this is about as charming as blowing on your spouse in Fire Emblem Fates. Only it's a giant ape and a half-naked human woman.
And we follow that up with the classic log bridge scene that was present in both the original movie and the Peter Jackson remake. Despite Prescott making it across, Kong shows up, forcing him to hide while the other men on the bridge, well...
Personally, both the original film and Jackson's remake made this sort of scene more brutal, given that when you fall, you pretty much hit the bottom. Here, we only see them fall into the blue screen abyss of a cliff with a river at the bottom. Not as brutal.
Only one other person is able to make it back off the log before Kong hurls it down into the abyss as Jack tells him to get back to the wall. Of course, only after Kong gets called away by Dwan's screams for help. Meanwhile, Fred gets an airdrop and starts setting something up on the wall.
You think I'm crazy?
You said it, Fred, not me. If we had Bond oil, we'd have had Gulf, Shell, Exxon crawling all over here. Not this one, pal. Kong is all me and Petrox. A Fred S. Wilson exclusive.
All right, move it, shorty.
Man, earlier in the film he was so desperate for a break he was willing to go out to sea. Yet here he is acting like he owns the place. It's during this scene and onward that even more scenes get extended. Some for as long as 10 to 20 more seconds of people getting work done, Kong being fascinated by Dwan, Prescott following the two. It just seems longer than it needs to be.
But not to worry, because we get a really good fight sequence.
Fight sequence? With what? You said there were no dinosaurs in the movie.
Well, that's true, but there is this.
A giant snake? Well, that's kinda cool, I guess. At least it's something. It's Kong fighting a giant reptile. This music fits the scene perfectly, like how Kirk fought the Gorn in Star Trek.
Actually, wouldn't it be more appropriate if it was on tone with The Wrath of Kong?
Touché, my friend. Touché.
Now, the extended cut makes this fight even longer than the theatrical cut. However, the difference is how it ends. After Kong spots Dwan being taken away by Jack, he finds the strength to break the snake's jaw. But you may notice the scene pans upwards so it doesn't show it actually happening. That's because the theatrical cut was a lot bloodier at the moment he rips it apart.
Lame, but reasonable. It also looks like they extended the scene where Kong is looking for them, likely to make it even more intense?
Luckily for them, the crew is able to pick up when Kong was coming and set a trap to capture him, which happens to be a large pit filled with barrels of chloroform. They have our couple lure Kong to that part of the wall that has the trap on the other side, and after a long and intense scene of Kong brutally attacking the wall, he breaks through.
Good job! You overdosed him with that stuff, and now he's dead.
Oh please, it's gonna take a lot more than chloroform to take him out.
I know. It's always that thing that does, though.
Again, while it's mostly added shots, this is actually one of the scenes that is a lot more fun to watch in the extended cut. You have a lot more fun that it's just an actor in a giant monster suit destroying a model set. For 1976, this could give Toho a run for its money.
Yeah, pacing aside, I have been loving some of the destruction Kong does with the life-size models of various locations they visit.
So then we cut to the super tanker, where Kong is held captive, which in the extended cut doesn't really add much, and hell, it looks like they just repeated the same shots. Yeah, movie, I just gave you a compliment of how much better quality you are compared to Toho. But don't just start taking cues from Godzilla vs. Megalon, where you repeat the same shots.
Anyway, the usual lead-up occurs where the corporate jerk-off plans to make a profit off their findings, and Prescott and Dwan feeling guilty that they're taking advantage of this success since she's now going to be a star.
Because of someone that was stolen off that gorgeous island and locked up in that lousy oil tank.
It's not someone. It's an animal, a beast to try to rape.
That's not true. He risked his life to save me.
Try to rape you, honey. And before you cry a lot, you ought to ask the natives on that island what they thought of losing Kong.
Actually, they'll miss him a lot. He was the terror, the mystery of their lives, and the magic. A year from now, that'll be an island full of burnout drunks. When we took Kong, we kidnapped their god.
Damn it, I'm tired of your trying to confuse this girl's mind. This is her big chance, and yours too. You know, there are stars at Princeton the same way there are in Hollywood, Jack. You want out? You want me to cable Harvard or Yale and get Kong another keeper?
Please tell me this guy is going to die soon.
Oh boy, it's coming, Isaac. For now, the human couple decide to settle their woes by making out. But Kong gets a hold of Dwan's scarf and feels even more sad at the loss of his one and only love.
And thus he goes on a rampage within the ship's cargo hold, because somebody thought it was a good idea to leave him alone and awake, as opposed to being monitored and constantly subdued so this doesn't happen.
They probably thought he couldn't break through steel, but it's okay. Once he sees Dwan, he starts to calm down enough where she tries talking to him.
You're just going to America to be a star.
Don't flood the tank! She fell in!
And just like that, he would remain quiet for the rest of the trip. It does take her a bit longer to climb out of the tank than the theatrical cut, as that lasted well over a minute when she started climbing out, but it still serves the purpose of showing the kind of trust Kong has with her.
By this point, they added well over 40 minutes of film, where there would only be about a half hour left in the theatrical cut, and 47 for the extended version. What in the hell could they put in besides the end credits?
Well, there's still the classic third act that takes place in New York City. This time, instead of a lead male being in charge of how Kong is displayed, that honor goes out to our main villain, Fred. Yes, I'm calling him a villain since he's taken advantage of our lead characters and was willing to dump one of them in favor of money. And Prescott is doing the right thing by backing out of it, though Dwan is still having some doubts on whether or not she should stay.
But I promise you, you'll never get another booking in your life. You'll end up tap dancing at Rotary clubs.
Oh, Jack, don't you understand?
Yeah, she needs a little more time. And so in that flashy dress of hers, she takes to the stage in front of a large audience, as well as those around the world, to unveil the 8th wonder of the world under a gas pump sheet. What does a giant gorilla have to do with selling gas?
Well, if you think that's embarrassing.
Oh no.
Yep, they put a crown on his head. One of the most terrifying creatures in cinema history. And this is what they did to him.
Seriously? You do not do that to the king of the jungle!
But once Dwan is shown getting handled wrong, Kong gets mad and he starts to break loose from his bindings. Everyone reacts in both shock, awe, and fright.
Wait. Show that again. What the hell was up with Kong there? Why does he look so stiff when he drops the cage bars? He looks like one of those giant inflatable gorillas you see at car dealerships or something.
Yeah, as you can tell, this scene does look a little faker than the other effects in the film. That's because for the scene, Carlo Rambaldi had built a life-size animatronic of Kong, which was used in publicity to convince people that the animatronic did all the effects work. But it doesn't help that the animatronic moves more of the same movement as a giant store mannequin.
Well, that's a shame, given that half the budget looks like it went into that damn thing. Anyway, panic ensues as everyone starts to run about and holy crap! He just stepped on those people!
Well, of course it wouldn't be a King Kong movie without some civilian casualties. However, the best one is coming up.
Wilson! This will cost the corporation billions! You can run, Wilson, but you can't hide. I don't care where you go in this world. Patrox will find you. I don't care if you go to the moon. We'll find you.
Oh snap, he crushed him so hard he got buried in the ground!
Actually, Isaac, the extended cut implies that he survived.
What?
While early screenings used this take to imply that only his hat got squished, there was enough backlash during those screenings where they edited it to look like that Kong did in fact squish Fred. They only cut the scene just before his foot lifted up entirely. This also would explain them removing the part where one of the company's CEOs tells Fred that they would be able to find him no matter what. But even then, him getting a foot was way more satisfying.
Well, good. Bastard deserves it after what he's done. And so Prescott and Dwan have to escape the wrath of Kong by going onto a train. Though unfortunately, after Kong tosses a car into a building in the extended cut, he is able to smell which one they're on, and that's actually a neat replica of the city they have him in. Good thing they were in the front car, or else he would have just killed his human girlfriend.
The two escape once again after eluding Kong, having time for a quick banter.
Please, buy me a drink. Buy me a drink over there.
This does lead to another moment that was altered in the extended version, where instead of being in one take, they cut to different angles to once again fit it on screen. Either way, this scene would suggest a love connection between the two, but the extended cut proves otherwise.
Man, I can't afford to get hung up on a rising star.
Ooh, that's gotta sting. Among more extended scenes, one that sticks out is where Kong goes through the electrical plant, where he gets shocked while devastating the place. The theatrical cut has it last 7 seconds, but this one on the other hand is at least 40, and it is glorious!
Prescott and Dwan talk some more about their relationship before he calls the mayor about a possible action that won't affect his voters because he only cares about his position than he does the safety of his people. The plan? Have Kong climb to the top of... Jack?
Nope, I am not touching that. Kong shows up and takes Dwan away, and heads to the towers anyway, which is where the military is currently stationed. There, he begins a long climb up the side of the trade centers, where Prescott makes it to the top, hopefully to meet them. This is by far one of the longest cuts made because of the altered footage, some new material, and even repeating shots.
How long is this one? 50? 60 seconds?
Try 73.
Damn, that's a long-ass climbing sequence.
Yeah, maybe a little too long.
Kong and Dwan share a moment together, almost rekindling something, when the military has some men use flamethrowers on him, while the crowd below is cheering. This is not something you cheer for until after he's defeated. And even then, this is not entirely his fault, you stupid people.
And despite the mayor agreeing not to hurt Kong, they send in helicopters with machine guns. Of course, Kong seems to sense his time is up and puts Dwan down before they open fire on him. However, in the extended cut, this scene is heavily censored due to television standards and practices at the time.
Makes sense, but really, how much worse could it have been in the theatrical cut? Oh, Jesus! I mean, what the hell? I know Kong got shot at in the other movies, but holy crap, does it have to be that brutal? I mean, just look at all that blood! Now I really feel sorry for the poor guy. What's next? Are his guts gonna come flying out, or bits of his brain?
Now granted, the scene is pretty brutal on its own, and I can see why they cut it out for television. However, less can be said about the censorship of swearing. What the hell is he saying there? That line is on par with the Moonchild line from the Neverending Story. Well, at least in the AMC cut, they had the decency to remove the line as if it couldn't be heard.
So Kong is still able to fight off the helicopters, but unfortunately he is heavily weakened from the crossfire and, of course, ends up falling to his death as people celebrate around the styrofoam model.
Yeah, since the animatronic was still in development during production, they had to make a second model out of styrofoam to present on the set of the World Trade Center Plaza. And honestly, this model is a much better product than the robot.
What have we become?
A society willing to succumb to our own greed at the cost of others. It doesn't help that the original ending, which was not in any cut of the film, is that Jack actually walks away from Dwan, officially ending their relationship.
So it pretty much just ends on a sour note for everybody but the nameless people. So that was the extended cut of King Kong 76. And to be honest, it was pretty good as far as an updated take on King Kong is concerned. As an updated take of the original film, they take advantage of the technology available to them at the time that rivals that of the old film, though a lot would be improved upon come the Jackson remake. The effects, for the most part, feel very natural. The characters are very enjoyable in their own way. The music works wonders with the different tones present, and still has that message that many humans don't see the beauty or the feelings of something that we ourselves brought pain upon. Hell, the film was so good that it even inspired a couple of rides at Universal Studios theme parks, like the King Kong encounter in Hollywood, which was lost in a fire in 2008, and Kongfrontation that was in Florida. Of course, with all that said, the extended cut didn't really do it wonders. A lot of the additional footage made what was more or less a well-paced movie drag out longer than it needed to. Some scenes, like with the bar at the beginning, the dialogue between Prescott and Dwan in the third act, and some of Kong's rampage bits, do enhance the experience, even if it doesn't look as good on a TV scale. I would be interested in like a hybrid between the two versions, where it has some of the better used extra scenes, but in a nicer quality, since some cuts make it seem jarring at times. What about you, Jack? What do you think of the movie?
Well, Isaac, this may come as a surprise to you, but not only is this my favorite King Kong film, but it's also my favorite film of all time.
Wait, seriously? This is your all-time favorite movie?
Yeah, it definitely ties with the original film. And as much as the extended cut is a nice little treasure hunt for hardcore Kong fans, it gives a lot more for anybody wanting a longer experience. For me personally, it's really cool to see all the scenes that were cut out, but at the same time I can see why they were cut. The only real scenes worth your time are the extended or deleted Kong scenes, especially the car scene, which honestly was one of the better deleted scenes. I still enjoy the movie overall, but I'll still probably stick to the theatrical cut. However, if anything, this one makes for good background noise. If you're a hardcore Kong fan like I am, it's honestly worth seeking out.
But at least we had fun with this. It was really nice reviewing with you.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on, Isaac. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got an expedition of my own to plan.
Where are you going?
Well, between you and me, Isaac, legend speaks of an ancient hidden treasure in the lands of the South. It is known as the King's Gauntlet. It was said to be the remains of a giant mechanical god from some 30 years ago, buried in the depths of North Carolina. While most of the remains have claimed to be destroyed, word of the King's Gauntlet has said to be found in an ancient cave near a forbidden shoreline. And hopefully sometime next year, I'll be able to find this gauntlet and show it to the world.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, Jack. Until we meet again.
Take care, my friend, and all the best for you. This is BigJackFilms, signing off.
And I'm the Media Hunter. Media's my prey, and reviewing them my way.